welcome to the secret ingredient of everlasting love. We often see this as the 8th big mistake. So, what is it, darling?
Well, the 8th big mistake and the real secret ingredient is telling the truth. So the mistake is not telling the truth. And the secret ingredient is really speaking your truth in a relationship. Right from the beginning of a relationship, how much are you putting on a mask? How much are you really telling the truth about what you want from the relationship? Right to a long-term relationship where you might be thinking that it's not for you long-term and you're not sharing that with your partner.
Yeah, now the truth or the lack of the truth starts often when we're very young. So for most of us, actually, it's a habit to not tell the truth. Well, we could look the other way and say, okay, so one of the things that it's been discovered that causes more challenges in relationships than a lot of other things is definitely telling lies. Yeah. So, could we equate the truth and telling lies as the same thing? Well, there is a subtle difference, but let's look at lying for the moment. Yeah. There are two ways that people tell lies. Yeah. Firstly, there'll be the lying that is trying to get you attention. So tell them what that looks like.
That's like, you're making me laugh now because it's something that we do in our family. It's always great. We've talked so much, haven't we, about, being aware of your patterns. And the one thing which I'm not too embarrassed to talk about is the fact that my family, what we do is we exaggerate things. We are actually doing that to be humorous because it's kind of a family thing that we always like to have fun and have a laugh. So I always remember in my childhood that we always exaggerated everything. But of course, when you think about that in all seriousness, if you've been brought up to do that for whatever the intention was, to do that in an intimate relationship means that you're exaggerating things in order to get attention or to get. It's almost like an advanced victim pattern as well. It's just so funny because we watch the way that we do that, and it's, for example, if ever, I'm not very ill very often, am I? But I had a really really bad bites last summer here in Austria, and I was like, we had an event on, and I was like, doing great and everything, and then of course Tony said to me at the end of the day, how are you doing? You haven't mentioned your bites. And of course, instead of saying, oh, well, they're okay, or they're fine, I just said, oh, now do you want to come and have a sit down and I'll tell you all about it, which is so much my habit, isn't it, to exaggerate it. Now if you think about that, if you do that in intimate relationships, if you exaggerate the way you're feeling, or the most common thing is that we exaggerate the effect that somebody else has had on us. So we'll say, like, when you do that, it makes me feel like you're stabbing me in the stomach, or all that kind of stuff. So we're really exaggerating the feeling, when in actual fact, what we need to learn to do is to tell the truth, not make it worse than it is or better than it is.
Just exactly as it is. Yes, indeed. So if that's one style of not telling the truth, there's a couple of others as well. My pattern was always from childhood. I always tell the story about my poor mum now. I think of my mum, she's in her 80s, yeah. I always tell this story about my mum. And when I was little, basically I had a gun with a cork in the end, which does, I know, give away my age. It doesn't seem like they even invented batteries by then, But anyway, so I had a gun with a cork in the end on a piece of string, and I shot it one day and it broke the window. And my mum was obviously not too pleased. Things were pretty tight in our house, so things, a window breaking was a big thing. So I had two brothers and sisters at that time, so there's three of us, and I was the youngest, and we got lined up like this. And my mum sort of looked at us, and she bore down on us in sort of quite an aggressive stance. And she used to have this stick that she'd hit us with, so she got this in her hand. And she said, I want to know who's broken the window. So of course I'm going, well, I'm not owning up to that, and obviously my brother and sister aren't, because they didn't actually do it, so it's all gone very silent. So then my mum done an amazing thing, which is she sort of got down very low and she changed her tonality. So you might remember, if we've taught you about physiology and tonality, how powerful it is. So when she was bearing down on me with a very heavy tonality, I'm going, no way, But when she got down with me and she got a bit softer in her tonality, she said, look, I don't want to tell anybody off, but actually I just want to know who broke the window. So I thought, well, that sounds like a whole much better deal, doesn't it? So I put my hand up, and then she whacked me with the stick. Yeah. So this was like, what we call a big red blob. It's in technical terminology, it's a significant emotional event.
Yes.
But of course, do you think the next time my mum wanted me to tell her something that had an edge of shall I tell her or shan't I tell her? Do you think I wanted to tell her the truth? Well, obviously not, because the truth in my world when I was 4 equaled, having a good whack with a stick. So you see, that's where we get that sort of thing from. And I recognise now, took me like a lot of years to recognise that I run that sort of protective pattern of lying all the way through my relationships, until we got together, and then we came up with a bit of a pact, which was amazing, really. But before, there's another type of liar as well, though. I think we ought to share that first,
Yes.
So there's another interesting type of liar. So you may recognise either you're an exaggerator or you're actually sort of like going, ooh, I'm going to like stay stum, so to speak. But there is the other type of liar is really the withholder, we always
yes, right, yes. So it is that the difference between being, staying stum, as you say, is a form of withholding.
Yes.
But there are also people that will literally, keep everything to themselves. So they will, for example, if you're working with somebody, you can notice this if you were doing with somebody at work, you're working with somebody, you ask them to do something, and then it doesn't get done, and so you're thinking, well, what's happened? And so you go and ask them, and then they tell you then why they haven't been able to do it, but they won't come to you to tell you, because they're actually, and it's likely to be their upbringing, it's that they're likely to to be thinking that if they tell you that they can't do it, that you will be cross with them, or you'll think less of them. But the line that you're talking about is really just actually telling a lie. So if somebody says, what have you done? You're saying, I haven't do it. I wasn't there. I wasn't. So you're right.
It's sort of a difference, between the overt lie, no, I didn't do it, when you did, or the person who's actually just really not saying anything. So it's like withholding the truth, so that they don't get into. So there's a subtle difference.
You'll know which one you do.
Yes. In fact, most of us we do this at our seminars, and most people are going to put their hand up to something on the front where they're actually, when you think about it, you're just not being totally truthful. But of course, if you said if you said to me in my old world, am I an honest person? I'd be the first one. Well, of course I am. So interestingly, not telling the truth egotistically is something we don't want to be seen to, be.
I remember you telling me the story about the first time you took your first wife out. I mean, this is like, we laughed about it really, but Tony was saying that when the first time he took his first wife out, that same evening he took another girl out earlier. Right, and he actually found that this is a 20-year marriage. So from the actual first date they ever had, he wasn't telling her that he'd been out on a date kind of in the earlier part of the evening, which sounds like an extreme story. but it's like, I just remember you telling me that. And then, as Tony will openly admit, because he's very open and honest about things now. He throughout that 20-year marriage, he had a series of like affairs and infidelity and all that sort of thing. And of course, when questioned about it, he would lie about it. Absolutely. And of course, this is really, really common. And, we can talk about the reasons why we lie. And obviously, a lot of it will be from our upbringing and things like that. But in relationships, what we tend to do is when we first get with somebody, we're lying or withholding or putting on a mask of being okay about something, right? When actual fact, that can be for the reason of wanting to present a kind of perfect, mask of who we are. And also wanting to make sure that the other person really likes us and wants to be with us. And mostly that will come from fear, that will come from us not feeling good enough to be in that relationship, and therefore we are dishonest, basically. And then as relationships go through, it can be anything from, we had a couple come here and they had actually a big difference, which is an interesting other point completely. A complete difference in their model of how long a short amount of time is and how long a long amount of time is, right? And this was a couple that, she used to say, well, I don't know what to do because he says he'll be home at dinner time, and then at 5 to 6 I'm ringing him up wondering where he is. Well, of course what's happening is because she's not accepting that to him dinner time is between 5 and 7, and that doesn't mean to say he's being dishonest in any way, he's just being his model of time, she was then pushing him by going, well, where are you? And then what we found out, of course, is that he wasn't being telling her the truth, because he was kind of saying to himself, you know what, you know, like she, especially when she was trying to make him get home at 6 o'clock, that, you know, a man, you know, very resistant to being told what to do, which is absolutely a masculine trait, you know, and it's one of those things I always say to women, get over it, women. I mean, it absolutely is a get over it moment, because, you know, you start trying to make a man do something by your rules or your model of the world, and he is likely to start not telling you the truth because he doesn't want to be told what to do by a woman. Right through to, you know, our best example of this is when, well, you started to talk about truth at one of our seminars, didn't you? And, you know,
yeah, absolutely. I thought, well, you know,
really fascinating.
We were doing an event on intimacy, which is, you know, one of our favourite subjects, because, you know, basically, as we always have a hand up going, you know, we got this wrong for so many years. We were really like driven. I was certainly driven by sex and had no clue, if you watch some of our other stuff, about what love really was. And then when I found the magic of love, it was like, oh wow, it's another whole world there that just unfolded in front of me. So, you know, sharing our knowledge and of intimacy is just a wonderful thing to do. And many people come along to this event. Anyway, this one couple came along. Well, there's lots of couples, lots of singles came along, and in fact, on two fronts there, we did this 2-hour talk on the truth.
Yes.
And the truth is very powerful. And then I shocked them a little bit, because I said, what I want you to do now is I want you to go away and sit down and have a good old talk to each other and tell each other the complete and utter truth. Tell each other all the secrets you have. Because you see, a secret is withholding the truth. And why do people do that? They do that primarily because they're fearful of the consequences of telling the truth. So,
and one of the things that actually people don't realise when they talk about telling the truth is, you know, they often think about telling the truth as, well, I've done something. Even what you're thinking is your truth. You know, because what Tony was saying earlier was like, you know, what we found when we first met was that we were very fortunate to, on the first day almost that we got together, we actually saw this amazing guy called Gary King, great friend of ours, who is like, you know, an amazing speaker who talks about truth. And he did this couple of hours talk about, you know, what's the difference between a tiny little white lie and a great big storming, you know, lie kind of thing. And he talked about that, and then he said to the audience, you know, I'm going to suggest to you that you make a commitment to yourself to tell the truth completely for the next 24 hours and see not only how that is, but also what it brings up in you, what you don't want to talk about. And we turned to each other at the end of this talk and we said, you know, we'd already decided, you know, well, Tony had decided very, very quickly and asked me, you know, to kind of be with him for the rest of his life kind of thing. And we said, you know, we're going to tell each other the truth for the rest of our lives, and we have stuck to that.
Yeah,
I mean, even amazing. To the point of, this is what I've been thinking about.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
And honestly, the only reason why people don't tell the truth to each other in relationships is their fear of the consequences. That's worth saying again. The only reason why we don't tell the truth is the fear of the consequences. And if you withhold stuff to stop some consequences that you fear happening, actually what you're doing is you're stopping intimacy happening, because the only way that you're going to have actually the better consequences that you ever dreamed possible is by telling each other the truth.
Absolutely, and it's such a fascinating subject, and of course when we unleashed it onto these people for 2 hours talking about truth, and then, you know, surprised them by saying, look, I want you to go away and tell all your intimate secrets that you've never told each other. You know, 2 of the couples there actually came back in not such a great place, because both of those relationships had infidelity in them. Now it's sort of argued that something like 8 out of 10 relationships, one or the other partner will have intimacy outside of their relationship. So my gosh, it's really common, but how many people have got their hand up going, you know, that's what I do, you know, I mean, that's the only way I can meet my sexual needs, is to be outside of my relationship, because for whatever reason we've moved so far apart, we've sort of dropped off the edge, but we're still together, so we're not telling the truth. So,
there's also the unfaithfulness that isn't a physical, it's not the intimate. I mean, so many people, if they really tell the truth, you know, if they've got troubles in their relationships, they've often got another person of the opposite sex who they're having a lot of intimate conversations with. They may not be having physical relationship with them, but they're having that. Now you see that in itself can be so destructive to the relationship. Absolutely. Unless you tell the truth.
And of course in today's world that's very simple, because everybody's on the the internet all night. I remember doing that myself in my last relationship, being on the chat lines, late at night, talking to all these women, but I wasn't telling my girlfriend at the time that, of course, and that's like very sad, So to learn more about the truth actually does set you free, and with these couple of couples where they suddenly shared this stuff, and we were there to help and support them through that, quite difficult time, they were able to, in fact, both of those couples are still together, which is really fantastic. Most people, once they find out that infidelity is been happening in their relationship, go, whoa, that's the end for me. I can't cope with the fact that you've been intimate with somebody else. But of course, the thing is, once you get close to the truth, then how would it be that both parties have had some element of responsibility in the fact that that's happened? And that's the big challenge, is the person who hasn't had hasn't been unfaithful, so to speak, is often going, well, I can't stand it that you did that to me, whilst not looking at themselves and going, okay, so what did I do that caused them to move away from me like this and search for sex outside of our relationship? So it's a very complex subject, and of course a lot of people bury their head under the old carpet and go, ooh, I don't want to talk about that, so it's very, very fascinating when you get the truth out. They always say the truth will set you free, and certainly with one of these couples, the infidelity that had been happening throughout their 25-year marriage, from I think it was like the second week in their marriage up to the week before they came to our event, and the person he'd been been unfaithful with was his wife's best friend. So oh my gosh, you've got a triangle of deceit. And
so what was so amazing about that was, so for him, first of all, for him to be able to overcome the fear of the consequences, because what he basically said was what his truth was, and that was why, I believe one of the main reasons why their relationship has survived that is that because he was prepared, number one, to tell the truth about what caused him, to take responsibility first of all, but also to be honest with his wife and tell why he felt like the need to go to other women, but also to tell the truth about what was going on for him and how he felt about himself, and how it was just more truth, wasn't it? And he was able to overcome the fear of the consequences by actually saying, do you know what, I find it more scary to think about a life full of lies going forward. He said, it is not an option for me to go for the rest of my life like this. He said, so I don't care what the consequences are. It's up to you how you respond to it, but I will not live a lie anymore. And it's just amazing. He was unbelievable. And he took complete responsibility. And what she was unbelievable as well, because she really told the truth. And there was a lot of coaching went on, and I'm not pretending that this is something that's easy to get over, and so that if there is truth that needs to be spoken in your relationship, we would urge you to get some help as well. Absolutely. So that you can really get each other, both of you can have somebody to talk to really understand how you can survive that, how you can understand it, and how you can speak your truth. But what she was amazing, because she actually really started to tell the truth about her own behaviour. How she realised that she behaved in a way that had pushed him away from her for a very, very long time. And she was also honest then about her own infidelity as well, which is, not always the case, but that was the case in this circumstance. And, we had a couple here very, very recently as well, who she had said to him before that they came here that she wanted a divorce. And what was so fascinating about that was that actually, her saying she wanted a divorce caused him to say, oh my God, I need to get some help on this. And they, came here, and actually they're still getting divorced, but they went away absolutely saying, now we are going to be able to be really, in good connection with each other, so that our children are affected very little by this divorce. So it's a great outcome. But the interesting thing about it is that she said she'd been thinking about this. She'd been deciding that she didn't want to be with him for 18 months. And, this was of a 14-year marriage. And she said for the last 18 months, she had got to the point where she was waiting for the moment to tell him she didn't want to be with him anymore. Now, how sad is that? First of all, it's not just sad for her, it's sad for him. And of course, a lot of the time it'll be, well, I really want to see if I can make this work. But you see, to make it work, it may be that the truth is the only thing that could have saved that relationship. So, you know, we feel very strongly about it, and, you know, and we don't want to make it too much also about just people in a relationship, because, you know, when you start off, you know, when we have so many people come here and they go, oh, you know, I was in this relationship and it didn't work out and I don't really know why, and we're going, well, like, did you tell the truth about how you felt? You know, as it's going along, as you're on your second or third date, if that's not working for you, are you telling the truth for each other? Or why are you continuing in a relationship that's not really working for you? So, you know, the truth is it. As you can see, we feel very passionate about this.
It is. So, of course, now what you know, needs to happen really for each and every person on the planet, for us to get into a whole different space on this planet. Really, if everybody lived in a space of love and truth, do you think it would be a different place to live? You know, would everybody's relationship be completely different? Well, yes, it would. So really, of course, it all starts with awareness, you know, and truth of self. So it's not necessarily about telling the truth to other people. It's about going inside yourself and going, okay, so what do I do then? Yeah, what is my truth? You know, and so to really look at you and go, okay, so in my relationship, what am I withholding now? What am I not saying? What can't I say for fear of the consequences? And what effect is that having on me? You know, because by withholding, often we create a web of deceit that then is very, very low energy. You know? There is no love in there at all. So, you know, if we're searching for love and you've got a whole load of, you know, that stuff going on inside of you, then to be honest, you're never going to experience love from there. That's why these guys who came to us and spoke the truth, which seems like bizarre, doesn't it? But see, once it's all out of you, you feel like the weight of the world has been taken off your shoulders. I remember the guy, you know, after about 10 minutes, and he said, oh my God, and he's crying and his wife's gone berserk, but he said, do you know what, it feels like I feel so light, I feel free inside, because he's kept this like you know, untruth inside of him for so many years that suddenly he felt better about himself. Now, of course, he then started to blame himself for telling her, he blamed himself for doing all these bad things. But you see, if you can go inside and have that beautiful conversation with you and go, okay, what's the truth about my being here? You know, because if I'm never going to experience love unless I'm in a place of truth, because remember, they hold hands, then, you know, do I really want to experience love, or am I going to go to my grave, you know, withholding truth or telling lies and never ever experiencing the love that's possible for all of us? So,
and the most beautiful end to that story is that this is about a year ago now, isn't it? And we coached this one particular couple for the kind of the first 2 months after their, you know, this truth was spoken, and of course, you know, they needed some help, and they needed a lot of understanding of how forgiveness could take place and how they could, you know, go forward. And one of the things that just came up that I was just remembering was that you know, I believe or watched her face one day when he talked to her about how the future was going to be with him. And I think the mere fact that his commitment to the truth, that she felt then that she could really trust him. She really felt she could trust this man, because she knew that the truth was a very big value for him, that was on top of his priorities, you know, regardless of what had been happening over the last 25 years. But then they came to us, and they actually drove about 3 hours across the country in the UK to have a meeting with us. And we came and we said, oh, you know, what can we help you with? And they said, no, we're fine. We just came to really celebrate with you the fact that we've just spent a weekend together in intimacy for the first time, for a long time. And, you know, we feel that we've really had love between us for the first time ever in 25 years.
You know, he was going, I thought, you know, when you two talked and I watched you guys, it's like I always had you on a bit of a pedestal, really, that you'd worked all this out, and I never thought it was going to be possible for me. But I can, you know, it always makes me a bit tearful, because, you know, it really touched me that he came all that way just to say, for the first time in his life, you know, remember, he's been having intimacy outside of his marriage for 25 years. The first time in his life, he believed he'd experienced love in intimacy, you know, with his beautiful wife. And today they're out there helping other people overcome infidelity. So, you know, once you know this stuff, you know, you do have this great inclination to share it with everybody, because it is like magic. It really is. So we trust that sharing a little bit about the truth there, in that it really is the secret ingredient to really everlasting love, as we say.
Yeah, and please do get in touch with us, you know, if you want to talk about it. We hope that you trust that and hope that you've got something from that short video to make you think about, you know, what's your truth. How could the truth inside of you and being spoken really help you go from wherever you are to wherever you want to be? And if you need any help, we're here.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know that if you are going to unleash something, some sort of latent, stuff that you've been storing for a long time on a partner, that actually having help on hand is really quite an important element. And so we absolutely have a team of coaches and what have you to help you through that transition. We're fine, however you get help, but we just want you to know that we specifically have a team of people and ourselves here to help you through that time, and know that the other end of that tunnel is everything you've ever dreamed of. It's just sometimes it only took 8 weeks for those guys to overcome it, and it was a dodgy 8 weeks, but if you think about it, they were living like a very low energy, and when they told the truth, the energy went whoa, like really down like this, and within 8 weeks they'd gone to a height where they never thought was possible. So our belief is we definitely
truth will set you free.
Is definitely that. So we wish you well, and look forward to either having you with us live or on tape again at some stage of the game. So thanks for being with us.